Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a new episode of Chatting with Lady C. Hello, Mum, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, honey. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Happy New Year to you all.
Happy New Year to everybody. And I hope that 2021 is going to be rather easier than 2020 has been. Oh, don't you?
I hope so. I'm not sure at the beginning it will be.
I'm waiting to get notice that they want me to have my vaccination. Because, of course, I'm in the age group where I'm supposed to be having it sooner rather than later. But people who are much older than I am haven't received a letter yet about their vaccinations. So
I think you should wait.
well, yes. Well, I have no choice. So anyway, enough said about vaccinations and things, don't you think? Let's
Totally.
rock and roll.
You've definitely had enough of that today. Alright, so our first question today. Lady C, I found Meghan and Harry's Spotify cringeworthy. What are your views on it? Did they say they were leaving England to lead a more private life as private individuals? How does that square away with their Spotify Christmas and New Year's special?
Well observed, don't you think?
Yeah.
Well observed. As usual, Harry and Meghan really put themselves in the role of being absolute ace hypocrites, you know. Oh, we want a private life, we want to be quiet, we want to be peaceful, we want a private life. And then they're out there in the public arena. Those bits of it that I am familiar with, because I could not have endured the whole thing. I mean, it's very professionally done. You know, they have a nice mix of people. So if, for instance, you like the comedian James Corden, he's there. So, you know, she's very professional. Meghan is a true pro. She is a true pro in every single way. But my overriding impression of it was that it is extremely contrived. It is extremely calculated. It is well thought out for the demographic. You know, we're going to appeal to this lot, we're going to appeal to that lot, so we're going to order this, then we're going to order that, and we're going to say this, and we're going to say that. I can see why the questioner thought it was cringeworthy, because it made me cringe too. You know, it's so saccharine and cutesy pie, and oh, look at me, I'm just so cute, you know, and just sickening, really. But what to me is the most important thing of it all is that no other royal anywhere else in the world would be so arrogant, so self-satisfied, so delusional as to think they are so important that they are going to serve up a long program to, according to them, uplift and entertain people. I mean, you know, if they had been in the royal fold, that's a valid way of uplifting. But royals uplift the people by following an established procedure and an established protocol that the people are complicit in, and that the people, by unspoken agreements, want them to be a part of. Royalty does not write its own script. Royalty does not say, look how clever I am, I'm gonna show you how it should really be done. Harry and Meghan, by writing their own script in the cutesy pie way they do, and it's very well done if you follow the demographic that they are aiming to appeal to, but it's all so phony. It's all so fraudulent. It doesn't have an authentic or sincere note in it from beginning to end. It is just cringeworthy is a very good word. It is cringeworthy. And I don't know who they think they are, that, they are setting themselves up as Mother Teresa, Diana, Princess of Wales, Meghan and Harry, saviors of the world. I mean, why don't they just say? Why doesn't he decide he's going to be Christos and she's going to be Jesu Christa? And they're just going to show the whole world. I mean, the Messiah is nothing compared to them, because they're going to save the world and they're going to uplift us and they're going to make us so happy. Just boring. Cringe-worthy is a wonderful word. But they have called in a whole load of favors from a whole load of people. Invite somebody you've never met or met once to your wedding. You can't ask your family, but you can ask people you want to meet. I mean, it's all so calculatedly self-promoting, and it's all about filthy lucre. It's all about the money, and I just find it sickening, quite frankly. Having said that, they are royalty for sale. The problem is, for royalty to maintain its integrity, it can't be for sale. So let's see how it all pans out. Because they are selling themselves. They are commodities that they are flogging. It is a form of, I don't even want to use the word, but it begins with pro. And on, what do you think?
I haven't got around to listening to it. Dima has sent me a few links and I have not got around to doing it. I'm enjoying my Christmas, to be honest. But if they, like you say, they won't be able to make money off it, but I bet they'll find a way
So
to.
no, they are making money.
That's what I was
off
going
it.
to say. They're going to make some. They have to.
They are making money off it. They've done this to make money. They're selling themselves.
Yes.
They are. This is about making money. They didn't go to California because they hated the royal life. They went to California because they want to replicate the royal life in California and make money out of it. Her dissatisfaction was that she couldn't merchandise being a part of the British monarchy. So she had to sell herself in America, since she wasn't allowed to sell herself here. And this is what it is. It is a distasteful way of selling yourself. Let's see how long it lasts and how well they succeed. Because of this content, and I'm not surprised by how dire the content is, because it's all horse manure. You can smell the stable. You really can. It's just so distasteful, just stinks to high heaven. And the hypocrisy of it all. I mean, there is this woman who doesn't speak to her father, doesn't speak to her family, has left most of the people she knew from her youth behind, saying, love wins out always. Love will win. I mean, love. Since when was love spelled M-O-N-E-Y? Next question, honey.
No worries. So for our next question today is from Catherine Webb. If Harry becomes a US citizen, would there be any situation where he could still have a claim to the throne?
Absolutely not a chance. For Harry to become a US citizen, he has to renounce his titles, his right of succession to the British throne, his status as a royal, and all titles, all privileges, everything hereditary. To become a US citizen, he has to become Mr. Henry Windsor, full stop. He can no longer be His Royal Highness Prince Henry of Wales, Duke of Sussex. He will be just Mr. Henry Windsor. He will have to specifically not only renounce his titles, but his right to the British throne. American citizens cannot accede to foreign thrones. It's as simple as that. Next question, honey.
No worries. So for our next question today, Lady C, what do you suppose that Princess Diana might have made of Duchess Kate and Duchess Meghan?
Huh. Well, I hate to speculate because I think it's an impertinence to put oneself in someone else's shoes. But I suppose, in the spirit in which the question was intended, I will answer it. Although I really do hesitate to. It makes me slightly uncomfortable. But anyway, I suppose I will answer it because since Dan is dead, it's so speculative. Oh, but of my reading of Diana as an individual, going off what I knew about her, if I can answer it like that, maybe that's an acceptable way of my answering it. I think she would have approved wholeheartedly of Catherine, because Catherine is very dutiful. Catherine toes the line brilliantly. Catherine is somebody who is a team player, who really will have succeeded at everything that Diana herself was not able to succeed at. Because Diana did not have sufficient discipline and sufficient stability and sufficient self-abnegation to actually surrender those aspects of herself that were inconvenient to fitting into the royal role. And I say this not to criticize Diana, but just as a statement of fact. She was very indulged as a child. She found it very difficult to make the adjustment from being indulged child to effectively what is a sacrificial lamb, because to an extent she was expected not only by the public but by her own family to be somebody who was going to sacrifice aspects of herself so that she would be successful in the role. She was brilliant at playing the role. She wasn't quite as successful in giving up those aspects of herself that made playing the role easy. Catherine has a commendable degree of self-abnegation, which means that she is very good at fulfilling the role and doing it not only privately but publicly. Diana didn't have that ability. Meghan doesn't have that ability. I think Diana would not have warmed to Catherine necessarily. Actually, I take that back, because Diana really liked girlfriends who were subservient. So I take it back. I was going to say that but Catherine is not subservient as a personality, But she is quiet, she is dogged, she is well considered, she toes the line, she doesn't push the boundaries as to where they shouldn't be, much of which Diana did. So, but I think because Catherine is a sort of personality who wants to get on with people and likes getting on with people and goes out of her way to get on with people without sucking up and without flattering and without false, she's not hypocritical. But so I think actually Diana would have warmed to her. I was going to say that I thought maybe, but no, I'm disagreeing with myself. In my original instinctive thing was, but because they're so different as personalities. But no, I think Diana would have liked her. Meghan, I think she would have thought was the bat from hell, and I think she would have moved heaven and earth to prevent that marriage. And had the marriage proceeded, I think she would have been absolutely appalled and horrified, because Meghan has all of Diana's failings and very few of her virtues. And very often, the thing people dislike most about other people is when they see their failings mirrored. And when they not only see their failings mirrored, but they see grossly exaggerated. And I mean, Diana was not materialistic. Diana would never have been selling her soul in a Mephistophelian bargain the way Meghan has done, and Meghan has got Harry to do. Because let's make no pretense about it, all the dealings that they are doing is royalty for sale, highest bidder, let's see what we can come up with. Diana was far too much a lady and had far too much integrity to go along with that. And I think she would have been absolutely horrified and appalled. And I think she would have moved heaven and earth to prevent that marriage. And if she didn't prevent it, I don't think she would be speaking to them today. Because I have to tell you, Diana was not the sort of person, if she didn't like you, or she crossed her in any way, or she had something against you, she'd just ice you. So she would have iced Meghan from before the ceremony. And maybe Diana is what it would have taken to preserve poor Harry. Is that interesting?
It is. It is. I think on Kate, she would have liked her, and she would have, like you said, warmed up to her, of course, like any parent would. Because at the beginning you always, and especially in their sort of situation of family, I think they have to make sure that they have to be a bit strict about it. But Meghan, I don't think she would have particularly liked her. But as a good mother, she probably would have just had to deal with it.
Well, I think her way of dealing with it would have been to give Meghan every chance. And when Meghan blew every chance by being the pushy number that she is, well, really the pushy player, because, I mean, the more that one sees of Meghan and the more that one hears Meghan speak and the things she does, you realize this woman is the consummate, but the consummate invention of herself. And, she is verbal diarrhea from beginning to end. And, flooding the world with all the fecal matter that comes out of her mouth that is just supposedly, oh, look at me, I'm giving you chocolate ice cream. No, honey, it stinks. And on that note, honey, I will ask you any more questions?
Yes, we've got another one. So for our next question today is from Hot Voodoo Witch. That's a bit funny one. Oh my gosh, Lady Scene, you were friends with Arnold Scaasi. I temped for Parker Lad at the AAP before I went back to college in the 90s. It was a fun gig. What were they like?
Well, I would imagine that most of our viewers will know who Arnold Scaasi was, because Arnold Scaasi was one of North America's great dress designers.
Okay.
He's been dead a few years now, not that many, but a few. And Parker Lad, his husband, they were together for 50-something years. Arnold was, ironically enough, a Canadian, and he was discovered by Olga Hannah, Charles's mother, and Charles's mother's sister in Canada. They discovered him, and Olga's clothes were all made by Arnold. This cool. Is many years ago. And Arnold, really for the second half of the 20th century, into the first decade of this century, was one of the top designers in the world. He was a couturier. He was great. I loved Arnold. They had a wonderful apartment. I think it was on Beekman Place, if I'm not mistaken. Absolutely a picture of elegance and luxuriousness, and they had those wonderful Picasso as soon as you entered, and just magic. They had a marvelous house as well in Palm Beach. I used to go and see them in both. I met Arnold through Parker. Parker Lad was a very famous literary agent, and I met him over my book Empress Bianca. And he, in those days, used to do breakfasts. There were always two famous authors, and once a week, I think it was once a week, at the Brazilian Court Hotel in Palm Beach, there would be a breakfast where the speakers would be two famous authors, well, two famous personalities who'd written books. Because, for instance, one year, the last year I did about 3 of them with them. The last time I did it, I think Tab Hunter, a famous movie star from the 50s and 60s, was my companion, so to speak, as co-speaker. And they were a lovely devoted couple. I was asked to go to their wedding. Everybody in New York was at their wedding, including Mayor Bloomberg. I was supposed to go, and then I had to stay in France because something came up with you children, which to me was a great pity, because I would have really loved to have gone to their wedding. And I used to go and do these lectures with. They were lovely people, absolutely very generous hosts, very gracious. Arnold died first. He died really quite quickly and suddenly in 2015. He had started to have a touch of dementia, and could be quite outrageous, and we all just took it in our stride. They did a wonderful retrospective of his creations at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. And he asked me as one of his guests, and I went to it. It was fabulous. Mary Michelle Rutherford came up from Florida and joined us as well. It was a magical evening, magical. It was the most fabulous evening. Arnold was a little bit cross with me because I was supposed to have walked in with him and Parker and Glendina West. Glendina was a wonderful, wonderful West Indian lady who was their personal assistant and took care of them in every way, shape and form. I think she'd started out originally being their housekeeper and became their pretty much everything else.
PA
and,
person.
yes, and a friend of theirs. And she was a wonderful, wonderful woman. And Arnold asked me to walk in with him. And Bill Cunningham, who was the chicest photographer of the day, social photographer. He was with the New York Times. He had his own column. He was, I mean, Americans fought to be acknowledged by Bill Cunningham. And he was there taking the pictures. And my car was late. And I phoned Arnold, and he was spitting mad, but there was nothing we could do about it. So anyway, afterwards, when we were all inside, but he said to me, "You missed the red carpet. You missed the red carpet, George. You missed the red carpet." He was really desperately trying not to completely throw a fit. Anyway, he then, I'm just trying to think, because the last time I saw Arnold and Parker together was in New York when they took me to dinner at Granouille, which is one of the great restaurants in New York. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's really fabulous. And they were really sweet, and I used to go and visit them in Palm Beach, and they'd have dinner parties for me and dinners for me in New York. Just divine. Then Arnold died really quite quickly and suddenly, which was merciful because he was starting to get dementia. And Parker missed him terribly. And shortly before Parker died, I used to phone up Parker. Every time I phoned him, he'd say the same thing. Say, "Parker, how are you, darling?" Old. Old age is just terrible. But they were really nice guys. But they also did with Liz Smith. Liz Smith was a very famous American columnist. The two most famous American syndicated columnists were Liz Smith and Cindy Adams. Cindy is an old friend as well, but Cindy is still going strong. Liz Smith faded about 10 or 15 years ago. But the three of them started a literacy program, and they got tens of thousands of people who were adults who were illiterate to become literate. Wasn't that wonderful? Yeah. They put their money to good use. In fact, when I bought this castle, and I phoned them up and said, "Oh, you've got to come to the party, the opening party." This was, of course, ages before the opening party, but, you know, to sort of
get it started.
Gear them up, because Arnold said, "Oh, Georgie, I don't think I'll be able to come, because now that I'm not in business anymore, I can't afford to cross the Atlantic in a private jet, and I'm afraid I'm much too old to do commercial." well, Arnold, what about first
On the
class?
left.
He said, first class? First class? Like I told him, go to the sewer.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
God. You know, so they never did come, and now they're dead, both of them, sadly. But I really was very fond of them. They were good friends and very generous. Every time I saw Arnold, he'd give me a piece of jewelry.
That's nice.
You know. And Parker was also really sweet. I mean, they were just so sweet. And Glendina took wonderful care of them, and she was the most marvelous, marvelous person. And on that note, I'll say, hopefully you have enjoyed this. To those of you who remember Arnold Scaasi, I'll tell you one little anecdote. He never ever gave away dresses, ever, to anybody. But actually, I'll tell you two anecdotes. He never ever gave away dresses to anybody, ever.
Mm-hmm.
He gave away to Elizabeth Taylor a very famous dress that it was a petal dress, loads of petals. It's when she had her black and grey hair, and it's a very famous picture. And she went to his atelier, and this is Arnold telling the story. She went to his atelier, and she said, Arnold, I'd really love that dress, but you've got to give it to me, because Elizabeth Taylor insisted on getting freebies everywhere. And Arnold said, Elizabeth, you know I don't give freebies. She said, Arnold, you're gonna make so much money when I wear that dress. Think of it as an investment. And he said, I calculated very quickly and realized she's right. And he gave her the dress.
That's a good one.
And at his opening at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, when they had his retrospective, wonderful retrospective, I had on a Lanvin couture cocktail dress. Mm-hmm. It's one shoulder, it's got a sleeve, it's absolutely wonderful. And he said, now, honey, if anybody asks you who designed that dress, what are you going to say? I said, well, Arnold, obviously I'm going to say Lanvin. He said, Lanvin? You better not say Lanvin. I'll kick you in the shin. He said, you're going to say I designed it. It could be mine. And it could have been his, actually, because they were both very classical and very stylish and both very magnificent 20th century designers, when couture really was very wearable and very chic. And so fortunately nobody asked. Because I would have had to have told a lie, because Arnold would have kicked me in my shin. Oh, he was so sweet. I loved them dearly. They were so kind and so generous. Just wonderful. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed this. Have you enjoyed it?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good, good. Oh, and I wish you a very happy 2021. I hope it's going to be much better than 2020 was.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, hit the like button, subscribe, and share with your friends. Happy New Year and goodbye.